and 2 booster cases for the new set. This is every set release. This is huge. Hey everyone, this is Murgle. So I had another video planned for today, but Weebs of the Shore went ahead and released an article discussing the Creators Guild. If you're unfamiliar, Weebs of the Shore initially had a program called the Ambassador Program. This was for people that were creating content and evangelizing the game in the early days of Grand Archive. This went on for a while and ultimately was sunset. But for people that did participate and meet those requirements, there was a really cool banner night that they were able to get. So it was a play map. I wasn't a part of that, but it was a place for inspiration for somebody like me that wanted to be involved in evangelizing this game, knowing that there was support from Weebs of the Shore for people that are willing to commit to that, put their time, money, and effort towards getting the game out there to a larger audience. Really cool program, and plenty of other trading card games do something similar, but it was nice to see it from a game like Grand Archive that at the time was still very new. Now we have the Creators Program, the Creators Guild, and this one is a little bit of a shock. This is much different than the Ambassador Program and has some, what seems like pretty strict and aspirational requirements for, I think, a lot of traditional channels that they're not going to be able to meet today. I have my thoughts on this. I think there's some positives here and a lot to praise, and I think there's some things to discuss as well that are maybe a little less positive for today's environment and is perhaps a little too ambitious. Weebs of the Shore released the Creator Program last night, and I want to walk through this with you a little bit because I do think this is quite interesting. When it comes to even being involved in this, there is going to be some waves of this and a cooldown as well, it seems. For the first wave of applicants, you will be notified of your acceptance within 14 days of applying. For all other applicants past the release of Distorted Reflections, you will be notified of your acceptance or denial within 30 days of applying. Should your application be denied, you cannot apply again till the following season. So this is really interesting. There's like a cooldown baked into this for people that want to submit, which I think is probably needed, but I'm a little surprised by this because of the timing primarily. So if you are currently a content creator and you think you may fit within these guidelines, then it's probably advantageous to apply today from what I'm understanding this. And if this first application is denied, that's okay because the cooldown is going to reset 8 days from now when DTR releases Season 5 begins. If I'm understanding that correctly, then that's all good. If I'm not getting it right, then we have kind of an interesting situation where there's going to be a few months between when you can apply and if you do get denied, whenever you can look to apply again. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing because I imagine Weebs of the Shore wants to, for one thing, not be bombarded by people wanting to be involved in this, but also they want people to be pretty thoughtful whenever they go ahead and apply. But if I'm understanding this correctly, for people that are currently creating content and you believe that you fall within the guidelines relatively well, applying this week for the next 7-8 days, I think seems like it's perfectly fine. So you can at least kind of get a sense as to if you make that cut or not, and then you can adjust from there for the DTR season if you need to. All right, so let's talk about the 2 categories that you can fall within to get into the Creators Guild. There is content creators, as you would probably expect, and there's a secondary one called community tinkerers. So going through content creators here, that's what you would expect. This is people that are creating video content, but the guidelines for this are really interesting because they're knocking out a lot of their best channels from even meeting the requirements to join the Creators Guild. Channels that have been around since the early days of the game, that have been there and were part of the Ambassador Program. They create quality content. These are channels that put a lot of time and thoughtfulness into their editing, graphics, animations. They don't actually fall within these requirements, which is surprising to me. So here's the guidelines for content creators. Create enough content to generate a Grand Archive following. I think that one seems reasonable. And their recommendation is 10 long-form videos per season or 30 short-form videos per season. Now that's kind of surprising to me, but I want to get this next one and then I'll talk about 2 of these in tandem. The next one is demonstrate consistent viewership metrics across Grand Archive TCG videos with an average of it looks like above 1,000 views per long form video, or an average of 10,000 views per short form video. So these two ones, the amount of content and viewership numbers, are surprising. If you are looking at a season, and if I'm understanding correctly, we're going off of Omnidex, you're looking at, I think, 4 months for each season. 10 videos over a season is not a ton, but it does require a large time commitment. Go watch one of Eva's videos and you'll see very quickly how creating truly a great piece of content can take a long time. And part of my concern with this for long form video creators is that the viewership numbers that the average typical, what I would say, high quality long form video focused on Grand Archive gets today is not very high. So this is asking somebody to set aside a lot of their free time to create custom content, content focused on Grand Archive that is well produced, that gets minimal amount of views, and do this quite frequently. We are looking at producing, I think it's on average, a little bit more than one video every 2 weeks. And again, if you're creating high quality content, this is going to eat up a lot of your time. Not necessarily a bad thing, because I think this is being ambitious and trying to steer content towards a new direction with this approach from Weebs of the Shore. So I understand how this should be looked at, maybe not as something that you can fall into today as far as the Creators Guild, but maybe something to strive for in the future. But I'll make an argument kind of against that in a little bit. Now, the other side of this, and this actually is, I think, applies a little bit more to me as somebody who focuses on creating short form content. 30 short form videos per season, I don't think is unreasonable. With the amount of time that it takes to create these, I think 30 is actually easier to create than 10 long form videos in a season. However, there's an asterisk here. If you're creating short form content videos, you'll see that they are looking for an average of over 10,000 views per short form video. Now, 10,000 isn't a high number, especially if you're somebody who does watch short form content. But I recognize that there's a lot of videos out there that garner tens of thousands and millions, and you watch them and you're like, I can't believe this video has been seen by so many people. But the algorithm does not like Grand Archive. If you're creating short form content for Grand Archive, over 10,000 views, it's a whole nother level. This is asking for a lot. The algorithm does not see a lot of activity for Grand Archive compared to other searches that they receive. So Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, One Piece, Pokemon especially, that's a great example. There is a ton of people searching for it. If you go look at hashtags for things like Pokemon, ton of people are engaging with that. Whereas Grand Archive, there's not a lot of incentive for people like YouTube and TikTok, YouTube's shorts, especially here is what I'm talking about. There's not a lot of reason for these companies to promote Grand Archive into people's For You pages. So now I've kind of laid the ground here for what this means as far as the numbers that people need to be hitting when it comes to creating video content for Grand Archive. I'm not sure if this is truly healthy because, and this is at a bit of a glance, I believe there's only, I think on one hand, you can maybe count the amount of channels that actually meet the requirements here to fall within the Creators Guild today. And I think you'll be a little surprised at some of the ones that won't be included in this. So Sparkle Sisters, I imagine, meets the requirements to get into the guild. I think True Champion Gaming meets those requirements as well. I believe that Main Deck will meet the requirements as well. Those three are the ones that I think that actually meet them today. It's 3. What I didn't include there is Talk GA, Lineage Break, Valkyrie, and some other channels that have been doing this for a very long time and have been very consistent with their uploads, but they're missing out on one of these here. So Talk GA, it's a podcast. Mark, Eva, Foamy does this. It's a fantastic podcast. It's well produced. It punches above its weight for the amount of views that it gets, but it still does hit the view mark of at least averaging above 1,000 views per video. However, They don't create these often enough. They create one podcast a month. It's 3 people having to arrange schedules. This is a small community. They're not receiving the numbers that require them to set aside more of their free time to create these videos and then edit this. This is something that I know Eva, I believe, is the one who's editing, puts a lot of effort into, just like she does on her own primary channel. So it's surprising because they were kind of the ambassadors I think everyone kind of looked up to with the ambassador program before. On the opposite end of that spectrum is Lineage Break. Lineage Break is another podcast for Grand Archive that's been around for a long time now. They create a new podcast every week, and then they edit that podcast and upload it afterwards. So it's a live production, and then they edit it and upload it as a video the following week. They hit the amount of long-form videos required in a season, but their viewer count isn't high enough. They average a few hundred views, I think, per stream and per video. So they don't actually meet these requirements either, despite them, I believe, being ambassadors and being something that even I believe the developers of the game are watching. It's surprising to see channels that are held in high regard, that put a lot of effort into this, not making this cut. And this feels like this is a bit of a shift from Weeds of the Shore as to how they want to approach creators and what they're looking for in the future. When I see these types of numbers, again, I see 3 channels that actually meet this requirement. I imagine that this is not so much to incentivize today's creators to get involved or get more involved. And I imagine they'd love to see that. Creators like Lineage Break, like Talk GA, to just continue to work at this, and maybe at some point the algorithm will start to favor us and put our videos in front of a larger audience. I'm not sure how likely that is to happen anytime soon, unless Weeps of the Shore is also starting to make more of an effort towards marketing campaigns for this game. But potentially, if this game continues to do well, people upload regularly, maybe a year from now, a couple years from now, some people can meet these requirements. What I think this is for, though, what I think they're trying to do here is I think Weeds of the Shore is wanting this to look attractive to channels that currently don't make Grand Archive content, but already have this type of audience numbers and viewership, so that they can convince them that now is the time for you to take your channel that currently isn't focused on Grand Archive and begin to make it focused on Grand Archive. Because if you do have a channel that is receiving tens of thousands of views or higher, and you're uploading videos already regularly, it's not so much to ask for you to begin to weave in maybe 10 long form videos over the course of 4 months. You're already doing this, you already have your viewer base, and now you can just port your viewer base over to Grand Archive rather than the reverse, which is what it's been consistently kind of over past 2.5 years or so, is that there are channels that are evangelizing Grand Archive and making content for it, and they weren't content creators before. They've stepped into this world primarily just to advocate for the game. So I think for a lot of channels, at least for now, this program really isn't for you, unfortunately. But I know that these are also guidelines, and maybe they aren't going to follow these to a T. Maybe it's going to be a little bit more of, we see the vision, we see where this is headed, we want to encourage you, and you don't necessarily meet one of these, but you meet the rest of these guidelines. Maybe you could still be let in. It's not entirely clear. Now, the one thing that I'll also point out here that's interesting to me is that it says, must create high effort content that is mostly original. And I'm curious what they mean by high effort. High effort can mean a few different things here. If you're creating a podcast and it's you or a couple people and most of it's just you yapping back and forth about Grand Archive, is that considered high effort? Is high effort something that is scripted, edited, that has animations, something more like Eva and what Eva makes? Again, Eva makes incredible content. However, it takes about a month for her to produce a video, so that makes this quite challenging. I don't quite understand what high effort means here, because effort could come from a few different places. Effort could be that the actual video, the end product, high effort was put into creating it. Or high effort could mean there was a lot of effort and strategy put behind the channel. Its upload rate, how many videos it's creating consistently, the thought behind creating that content and the purpose of that content and what they're working towards could be high effort. And when I say that, I'm frankly speaking more to myself, because the only person that I can I really truly know the thoughts as to the channel's efforts would be my own. So I've created over 50 videos over the last 4 months for Grand Archive, and I think in total have like 65,000 views over the last 4 months. This is heavily weighted towards short form content because that's where my focus is. But my content is not cinematic quality. It's nowhere at the level of Eva's. Now, I have good, consistent engagement that is growing. And there's a lot of effort on my part as to my strategy and my goals behind the scenes. Creating over 50 videos over the course of 4 months does require a high amount of effort on my end to make sure that I'm consistently uploading and finding ways to provide something, some sense of entertainment. My focus is on entertainment and not being educational. Maybe every once in a while I say something that is actually deemed educational, but it's far and few between. So I don't really understand what high effort means because we've got a couple different ways that you could read into that. And maybe that's on purpose. Maybe if you're somebody who can convey that there's a lot of effort put on the back end, maybe they would appreciate that and consider that high effort. Or maybe it is the content, truly the content, the end result, the product at the end that they are considering whenever they say high effort content. Not quite sure there. Now, Community Tinkerers is a really cool one to see and is very much needed. So this is going to be somebody who develops tools. These are people like Fractal Insight. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with that website. An aggregate for results for tournaments, and then this allows you to see stats on decks and their win rates. It's a great tool to have. You've also got Proxia, the life counter application. I imagine that one may fall within the requirements for this too. And there's plenty of others that you can think of. I'm glad that the Tinkerers are getting called out here and can be involved as well. All right, so I've gotten through the boring parts. Let's actually kind of look at like what you're getting. So again, this is asking a lot. So what are you getting for this? You're actually, well, frankly, getting a lot as well. So let's go over this. First time benefits that partnered creators received as a celebration for joining their program is going to be 1 creator backpack. I can't wait to see this. 1 gold stamped playmat of the current creator promo card art. For every first edition set release, you will receive, this is crazy, 2 of each starter deck products releasing with the set, 3 packs of each Dragon Shield sleeve releasing with the set, 1 merchandise playmat associated with the set, 1 creator CPR card. The content creator promotional card will be changed every 4 seasons. What this means is that as long as you're a part of the Creators Guild and you stay within good standing for the next 4 seasons, you will receive a playset of Frostborn Paladin. So that is quite cool. All right, you'll also receive 10 boxes of the current supporter pack in rotation and 2 booster cases for the new set. This is every set release. This is huge. This is an incredible amount of product for someone who does make it into the Creators Guild. I mean, these CPRs alone, 1 every set release, that is massive. That is incredible. And then there's some passive benefits here that shouldn't be overlooked because the first one here is super cool. Free upgrade of VIP or super VIP tickets to certain Ascent level events while supplies last on invite basis. That's incredible. That's incredible. And it's really smart too. So let me tell you why. So if you are a channel that is garnering enough views to be a part of this, then they want you with these ascents. They want you vlogging. They want you talking about your experience and promoting ascents. So this is a super smart idea here. It costs them very little to upgrade these tickets as far as, I think, amount of merchandise that needs to be set aside that is effectively being given out for free. And the return is tens of thousands of views on content just about going to ascents. So I think this is a really smart thing to provide. And then, so I think what you're starting to see here is a huge shift. I talked about this at the beginning. So what you're starting to see here is the shift away from the original ambassador program into this Creators Guild program. And this is a dramatic change. I think this is probably going to catch a lot of people off guard. And I think there's going to be some people that are discouraged by this because this is asking a lot of somebody who's been creating content for the last 2.5 years and has seen some growth, but not a ton. Them to now somehow try to scrape together a large amount of viewers that they currently don't have, or create a large amount of content that they currently don't have time or motivation to create to try and meet these goals. What you get for doing that is obviously quite attractive. The amount of product that you're receiving and the perks are certainly worth it if you can meet these guidelines. But I also want to know what everyone here thinks about this. Obviously, I've said my part, but what do you think about the Creators Guild? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And please like and subscribe. I really do enjoy making these videos, and as I am somebody who does want to be involved in the Creators Guild program, your likes, your subscriptions will make the difference in me getting there. So I appreciate you helping me. All right, I'll have a new video soon, but for now, peace.